Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to tackle a topic that I imagine will not sit well with some people. I imagine there will be some people watching this video that completely disagree with me, and that is fine, but it's something I've been thinking about over the past couple of weeks as we've seen more and more leaks and rumors regarding Nintendo popping up. And while I don't think the information is inaccurate, and while I love rumors and speculation, that is what I've based my YouTube channels off of for the past almost a decade, lately it feels like we're getting almost too much information, but at the same time, most of that information kind of feels worthless. But then people take that information and act like it is the new gospel, right? It is everything. This information is undisputable. And once again, while I believe a lot of the information coming out, I feel like people need to take a step back and use a little bit more critical thinking when analyzing some of these leaks. So if you don't follow a lot of Nintendo leaks and rumors, the main leaker I want to discuss today is Madori. Madori is a leaker over on Twitter who initially popped up leaking mostly Sega and Atlas stuff, mainly pertaining to the Persona franchise, but has then since branched out to covering a lot of Nintendo as well as Square Enix. And I love Madori. Madori is a fantastic Twitter account. If you enjoy the video game industry and seeing leaks and rumors, she is a great account to follow. And I believe her information. Most of what she has said has come true. Especially if you are a Square Enix or Sega and Atlas fan, a lot of her information actually is interesting as well. Now, I think it was pretty clear, for example, when Dragon Quest III HD 2D went missing for several years, that yeah, you could make the prediction that maybe they went back and did all three games, but she also kind of reported on that, or, tweeted it out. It feels weird to call that a report. But with Nintendo, all of her leaks and rumors, they all feel really unnecessary. So for those out of the loop, basically her Nintendo leaks kind of come down to this. Nintendo is working on a project named X. I believe this Nintendo project is in development at this studio. And that's it. But for some reason, these tweets alone have been enough to make the Nintendo community and other Nintendo YouTubers go rabid with speculation. But also, people are just taking everything and kind of adding their own spin on it almost to add more credence to it and add more, immediacy to it. So a great example of this was the night before I'm recording, she tweeted out this: "There is a game project at Nintendo with the codename Spiral. By researching the data I have received in the last month, it is very likely that this is the codename for the next entry in the Splatoon series." Which, that in of itself is interesting. It's like, oh, we now know the codename for the next mainline Splatoon game. But that is all Madori said about the topic, which is fine. And I mean no disrespect to her. Once again, I like following this account. However, a lot of people took this to mean and kind of added their own, I guess, opinion on it, almost to an objective level of meaning, oh, this means Splatoon 4 is coming out in 2025. Like, people now think because of this single tweet, which basically had no information in it, that Splatoon 4 is going to launch on Switch 2 next year. But nowhere did she say that. Nowhere has any other outlet reported that. People are just adding their own spin on this, and it's honestly pretty frustrating to see as a YouTuber, seeing people take a nugget of information and acting like it's like a treasure trove, if that makes sense. I guess the idea for a lot of people is that if Splatoon 4 is in development, which, by the way, it absolutely is, why wouldn't it be, that means it must be their next game. For those that don't know, Nintendo EPD5 is the production group within Nintendo that makes Splatoon as well as Animal Crossing. Now, for a lot of people, Animal Crossing was the next logical step from that developer because we just got Splatoon 3 in 2022. And while I don't want to discredit the idea that Splatoon 4 might come out next year, or it could even be their next game, this idea that because it's in development equal it's next year or it's coming before Animal Crossing doesn't make any sense. I don't know if people don't understand how game development works, but I promise you Splatoon 4 has been in development for a couple years now. Just like the next Animal Crossing game surely started development back in, let's say, 2021 or 2022 at the absolute latest. Just because it's one team making these two very popular franchises doesn't mean that they're only really focused on one game at a time. We kind of know this, actually, because they have different directors. The director and producer for most of the Animal Crossing series, Aya Kyogoku, has never worked on Splatoon. She has no Splatoon credits, despite working for Nintendo EPD5, meaning it is very likely that ever since Animal Crossing New Horizons came out, or even, let's say, Happy Home Paradise, the DLC for that game released, she has probably been working on a new Animal Crossing game. It also just makes sense that Animal Crossing would be more imminent because Animal Crossing is a much bigger franchise than Splatoon. It is a much bigger system seller. But even disregarding that, just based on the timeline, Animal Crossing would certainly be next from this team. But that doesn't mean Splatoon 4 is not in development. I believe this information from Madori. I believe that there is a Splatoon 4 in development with the codename Spiral. But that's how game development works. It's probably in pre-production right now, but because Madori tweeted it out, for some reason people take this to mean, oh, Splatoon 4 is releasing soon. Guys, game development takes several years. There was a 5-year gap between Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3, and while certainly they could get Splatoon 4 out sooner, I don't think you should bet on that. I think this idea that a lot of her leaks must be imminent might stem from Pyoro. So if you aren't familiar with Pyoro, Pyoro is another very prominent Nintendo leaker who usually only leaks stuff within, let's say, a week of them happening, and Pyoro never misses. Pyoro is always 100% right. But Pyoro is clearly getting their information in a different way than Madori is, because Pyoro only leaks stuff, like I said, like a week in advance, whereas Madori is leaking stuff that we won't be able to verify for possibly years. And once again, I do believe all of these things that she's tweeting. However, I think people need to realize that a project being in development and her knowing about the codename doesn't mean that project is anywhere near releasing. That's the point I'm trying to make with this example in particular. But that's just the most recent example, and while I do think, oh, Splatoon 4's codename is slightly interesting, a lot of the other codenames that Midori has put out, I find perplexing as to why they're even getting attention at all. I actually made a video about one about a week or two ago talking about this codename SP Red, which she believes is a new 3D Mario game. I made a video talking about it just as an outlet to talk about the next 3D Mario, but a lot of people saw this codename and were like, wow, 3D Mario, wow, I can't believe it. Like, yeah, of course, guys. Of course they're making a 3D Mario. Are you kidding me? But her first initial codename from Nintendo was Banquet, which is in development at Indie Cube. And once again, a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, they're making a Mario Party. Really? You needed a leaker to tell you that a new Mario Party game was in development at the development team that exclusively makes Mario Party games. You needed a leak for that. Now, I do want to point out one rumor or codename from her that I actually did enjoy talking about, and that was Project Yu-King O. Yu-King is the codename for Breath of the Wild, so the assumption here is that this is a remastered version of Breath of the Wild for the Switch 2, which in of itself is maybe not that exciting, but this is a codename we can actually see and make a direct correlation with, like, oh, this is exactly what this is going to be, and it's something we weren't necessarily expecting. Splatoon 4, yeah, we're expecting that. A Breath of the Wild remaster, while it had already been reported at Gamescom the prior year, is a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. But I think the point where I stopped kind of caring about all of these codenames was when, within the span of like 24 hours, she posted 3 very specific ones. So the first of which being a Monolith Soft game with the codename Legacy. Now, out of all of them, I think this one is also maybe a little bit more interesting because all of the Xenoblade games have a very similar codenaming convention with Big Folk and Small Folk and Big Folk 2 and Big Folk 3. So that implies that Monolith Soft is making a new thing that isn't Xenoblade. Very exciting, but once again, something that you can kind of just figure out based on where Xenoblade is at as a franchise and Monolith Soft's hiring, and like, yeah, I think a new thing from Monolith Soft that isn't Xenoblade Chronicles was kind of obviously going to happen, but still, that one's a little bit more interesting. The two that kind of bugged me, though, were these two that I saw a lot of people jumping on as confirmation, and I, once again, kind of like with the Mario Party codename, I'm just like, did you really need confirmation of one of these in particular? So there was a pair of tweets here that said this: there's a project at Nintendo with the codename Edward. This might be related to the rumors of a new Zelda title. And then she also tweeted, there is also a project at Nintendo in development with the codename Anna. Elsa is the codename for Nintendo Switch Sports, so the title might be related. First of which, I want to talk about that Nintendo Switch Sports thing as someone who actually is a stern defender of Nintendo Switch Sports. I love that game. I played it for over 200 hours. I got all the cosmetics, humble brag, you know, whatever. You don't need a leaker to tell you that they will make a sequel to one of the best-selling Switch games. That game released in 2022, and it sold over 13 million copies, I believe. So, yeah. no duh, they're gonna make a sequel to that. To me, the more interesting news would be, oh, they're not making a Nintendo Switch Sports Resort or a Nintendo Switch Sports sequel. It's funny seeing this tweet come out and then see all these people jump on this bandwagon of, oh, Switch Sports 2 is coming out within the first year of the Switch, when that's something I've been saying for a while now. But regardless, I don't think you needed a leaker to tell you that. And then as for this Zelda series title, Edward, she says this might be related to rumors of a new Zelda series game. Maybe, but the assumption is there because Link's Awakening Remake has the codename Richard. But the reason Link's Awakening has the codename Richard is because there is a character in the game named Richard who originally appeared in that game, also made by the Link's Awakening team that never got localized, the frog for whom the bell tolls. That's why that game has the codename Richard. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's no Zelda characters named Edward. It's still possible that maybe Richard, Edward, maybe they would just want to go ahead and use Edward. They seem to be using a lot of just real human names over at Grezzo for 2D Zelda games. Triforce Heroes, I believe, has the codename Alice, but I don't know, man. Saying that is Zelda feels a little bit like a stretch to me, but then subsequently seeing all of these people say, oh, this means a 2D Zelda game is coming out this year, once again, to the point I was trying to make with Splatoon 4, yeah, if this is a 2D Zelda game, of course it's in development. A 2D Zelda game is probably always in development, some of which we may never see. I guess the root of my issue is mostly in how people are interpreting these leaks. Once again, I mean absolutely no disrespect to Madori or really any other leaker. It's just the way that people take these things so seriously and act like they are the new gospel, they are the new Bible when it comes to Nintendo speculation and rumors, when it's like, I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? I love me a good code name, but I think a lot of these code names would be more satisfying to know after the thing actually is either shown or released. Right now, we can't do anything with the information that, oh, Indie Cube is making a new Mario Party game, because we kind of already know that, just inherently by what games they make always. In my opinion, as someone who loves speculation and even covering rumors to a certain extent, all of this information coming out so quickly, and all of it being pretty superficial in terms of how detailed it is, I honestly think this entire thing has kind of been bad for, like, the Nintendo community, at least here on YouTube, in my opinion, and even on social media, I guess, on Twitter and stuff, right? Because now all anybody talks about is, oh, Splatoon 4 is coming out next year, or, oh, a new 2D Zelda game is coming out, or, oh, a new Mario Party game is in development, when it's like, I prefer speculation when it's rooted in actual research and analysis and trying to figure out what developer should be ready to go, and that's part of the fun of being a Nintendo fan to me, because Nintendo treats their developers so interestingly compared to the other major publishers, where, like, Intelligent Systems is likely sitting on a Fire Emblem 4 remake. I think that's super interesting, but hearing a code name for a game that probably won't come out for 3 more years, I don't know, it's like, okay, cool, I guess. That's not that exciting to me. And to the greater discussion as a whole when it comes to Nintendo rumors and leaks, I feel kind of bad focusing so much on Madori in this video, but there was another rumor that came out a few weeks ago that I didn't make a video on because a lot of these rumors tend to just be, like, even more obvious than what she's posting, right? Like, to her credit, we didn't know, and we still don't know for 100% fact, but, like, we didn't know that Splatoon would have the codename Spiral, for example, right? But there was a rumor recently from PH Brazil, the original person who said the Switch 2 was getting pushed to 2025, so some validity there if you do believe the Switch 2 was ever supposed to release in 2024. I still don't believe that, but he posted a thing or said something along the lines that Nintendo is planning on re-releasing 2 games for the Switch after March 2025, being a Nintendo GameCube game, and the second one being a classic Nintendo 3DS title. I'm reading from My Nintendo News here. And of course, as always, a bunch of people jumped on this, made videos speculating what these 2 things could be, and I'm just sitting there kind of like scratching my head like, wow, Nintendo's gonna remake a 3DS game and a GameCube game? You mean that thing they've done almost every single year for the past, like, 6 years? Wow. That's crazy. I don't know, it's just like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of fun to talk about. It gives a certain framing for like me, for example, if I were to do a video on that, I could be like, "Oh, these are the 2 I think it'll be," but that's not really interesting information when they do it so often, if that makes sense. I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I know I'm probably gonna get a decent amount of hate for this video, and once again, I don't mean to call out any leaker because I respect and like what they do, and it gives me stuff to talk about, but I do find issue with how people are interpreting a lot of this stuff and how they jump on it, and once again, treat it like fact, or kind of add their own subjective opinions to it and act like it's part of the rumor or something along those lines. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I would love to get a conversation going. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch news, reviews, discussions, all of that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames, and until next time, folks, peace.